speckled band. On glancing over my notes of the 70-odd cases in which I have during the last 8 years studied the methods of my friend Sherlock Holmes, I find many tragic, some comic, a large number merely strange, but none commonplace for working as he did, rather for the love of his art than for the acquirement of wealth. He refused to associate himself with any investigation which did not tend towards the unusual and even the fantastic. Of all these varied cases, however, I cannot recall any which presented more singular features than that which was associated with the well-known Surrey family of royals of Stoke Moran. The offence in question occurred in the early days of my association with Holmes, when we were sharing rooms as bachelor. Let's see, how is it? Yeah. Bachelors in Baker Street. It is possible that I might have placed them upon record before, but a promise of scarcity. Do I need to see it? Yeah, you need. Secrecy. Secrecy was made at the time, from which I have only been freed during the last month by the untimely death of the lady of whom the pledge was given. It is perhaps as well that the facts should now come to light, for I have reasons to know that there are widespread rumors as to the death of Dr. Grimsby. Let's see how to pronounce this one. Grimsby Royalt, which tend to make the matter even more terrible than the truth. It was early in April in the year 83 that I woke one morning to find Sherlock Holmes standing, fully dressed, by the side of my bed. He was a late riser, as a rule, and as the clock on the mantelpiece showed me that it was only 7:15. I blinked up at him in some surprise and perhaps just a little resentment, for I was myself regular in my habits. Ooh. Very sorry to knock you up, Watson, said he, but it is the common lot this morning. Mrs. Hudson has been knocked up, she retorted upon me, and I own you. What is it, then? A fire? No, a client. It seems that a young lady has arrived in a considerable state of excitement, who insists upon seeing me. She is waiting now in the sitting room. Now, when young ladies wander about the metropolis at this hour of morning and knock sleepy people up out of their beds, I presume that is something very pressing which they have to communicate. Should it prove to be an interesting case, you would, I am sure, wish to follow it from the outset. I thought, at any rate, that I should call you and give you the chance. My dear fellow, I would not miss it for anything. I had no keener pleasure than in following Holmes in his professional investigations and in admiring the rapid dictations. The dictation? What was this word? Let's see. Deductions as swift as intuitions, and yet always founded on a logical basis. wealth. What's this word? Can't even pronounce it. Yeah, Wiath, which they unraveled the problems which were submitted to him. I rapidly threw on my clothes and was ready in a few minutes to accompany my friend down to the sitting room. A lady dressed in black and heavily veiled. Let's see this one. Veiled, who had been sitting in the window. Why this split? Window. Oh, goodness gracious. Window rose as we entered. Good morning, madam, said Holmes. Surely, my name is Sherlock Holmes. This is my intimate, I suppose. Oh, it's intimate friend and associated Dr. Watson, before whom you can speak as freely as before myself. Huh? I am glad to see that Mrs. Hudson has had the good sense to light the fire. Pray draw up to it, and I shall order you a cup of hot coffee, for I observe that you are shivering. It is not cold which makes me shiver, said the woman in a low voice, changing her seat as requested. What then? It is fear, Mr. Holmes. It is terror. She raised her veil as she spoke, and we could see that she was indeed in a pitiable. Let's see this word. Pitiable state of agitation. Her face all drawn and grey, with restless, frightened eyes, like those of some hunted animal. Her features and figure were those of a woman of 30, but her hair was shot with premature grey, and her expression was weary and haggard. Sherlock Holmes ran her over with one of his quick, all-comprehensive glances. You must not fear, said he soothingly, bending forward and patting her forearm. We shall soon set matters right. I have no doubt you have come in by train this morning, I see. You know me, then? No, but I observe the second half of a return ticket in the palm of your left glove. You must have started early, and yet you had a good drive in a dog cart along heavy roads before you reached the station. The lady gave a violent start and started in bewilderment. Let's see this word. Yeah. Bewilderment. Bewilderment at my companion. There is no mystery, my dear madam, said he, smiling. The left arm of your jacket is spattered with mud in no less than 7 places. The marks are perfectly fresh. There is no vehicle save a dog cart which throws up mud in that way, and then only when you sit on the left-hand side of the driver. Whatever your reasons may be, you are perfectly correct, said she. I started from home before 6, reached Leatherhead at 20 past, and came in by the first train to Waterloo, sir. I can't stand this strain no longer. I shall go mad if it continues. I have no one to turn to, none, save only one, who cares for me, and he, poor fellow, can be of little aid. I have heard of you, Mr. Holmes. I have heard of you from Mrs. Frentosh, whom you helped in the hour of her sore need. It was from her that I had your address. Also, do you not think that you could help me too, and at least throw a little light through the dense darkness which surrounds me? At present, it is out of my power to reward you for your services, but in a month or 6 weeks I shall be married with the con the control. What was this word? Why this split word here? Control of my own income, and then at least you shall not find me ungraceful. Let's see. Holmes turned to his desk and, unlocking it, drew out a small case book, which he consulted. Farintosh. Let's see how to pronounce this name. Farintosh. Farintosh, said he. Ah, yes, I recall the case. It was concerned with an opal tiara. Let's see this as a chunk together. Opal tiara. I think it was before your time, Watson. I can only say, madam, that I shall be happy to devote the same care to your case as I did to that of your friend, as to reward my profession is its own reward, but you are at liberty to defray whatever expenses I may be put to, at the time which suits you best. And now I beg that you will lay before us everything that may help us in forming an opinion upon the matter. Oh, this is an old English. Alas, replied our visitor, the very horror of my situation lies in the fact that my fears are so vague, and my suspicions, oh goodness, how can I pronounce this word? Suspicions depend, oh god, another word, depend so entirely upon small points, which might seem trivial to another, that even he to whom of all others I have a right to look for help and advice looks upon all that I tell him about it as the fancies of a nervous woman. He does not say so, but I can read it from his soothing answers and averted eyes. But I have heard, Mr. Holmes, that you can see deeply into the manifold wickedness. Oh. Wickedness of the human heart. You may advise me how to walk amid the dangers which encompass me. Let's see how to pronounce this word. I have a lot of words to see. Encompass. I am all attention, madam. Let's see how to pronounce madam. I think I pronounce it incorrectly. Madam. My name is Helen Stoner, and I am living with my stepfather, who is the last survivor of one of the oldest Saxon families in England, the Royals of Stoke Moran, on the western border of Surrey. Holmes nodded his head. The name is familiar to me, said he. The family was at one time among the richest in England, and the estates. What was this one? Estates extended over the borders into Berkshire. This is a name in England. Berkshire in the north, and Hampshire, another name, Hampshire in the west. In the last century, however, four successive heirs were of a dissolute heirs, not hairs, but heirs, I suppose. Yeah, it's heirs. Heirs were of dissolute. It's not dissolute. Dissolute and wasteful disposition, and the family ruin was eventually completed by a gambler in the days of the Regency. Nothing was left save a few acres of ground and the 200-year-old house, which is itself crushed under a heavy mortgage. The last squire dragged out his existence there, living the horrible life on aristocratic let's see, aristocratic people. What was this word? Let's see. Pauper. Is this a new word? Pauper. But his only son, my stepfather, seeing that he must adapt himself to the new conditions, obtained an advance from a relative which enabled him to take a medical degree and went out to Calcutta. I think this is a city in India. Yeah? Calcutta, where by his professional skill and his force of character, he established a large practice in a fit of anger, however, caused by some robberies which had been a long word. Perpetrated in the house. He beat his native butler to death and narrowly, let's see how to pronounce this word. Narrowly. What was this? Narrowly escaped a capital sentence. As it was, he suffered a long term of imprisonment, and afterwards returned to England, and a morose and disappointed man. A morose. When Dr. Roylott was in India, he married my mother, Mrs. Stoner. Is this Mrs.? Miss? Yeah, it's Mrs. Stoner, the young widow of Major General Stoner of the Bengal Artillery. My sister Julia and I were twins, and we were only 2 years old at the time of my mother's remarriage. She had a considerable sum of money, not less than £1,000 a year, and this she bequeathed. Wow, I can't pronounce this word. Bequeathed to Dr. Roylott entirely while we resided with him, with a provision. I don't think this is a provision that a certain annual sum should be allowed to each of us in the event of our marriage. Shortly after our return to England, my mother died. She was killed 8 years ago in a railway accident near Crewe. What is it? Crewe? Let's see. Crewe. It's Crewe. Crewe. Dr. Roylott then abandoned his attempts to establish himself in a practice in London and took us to live with him in the old what? Let's see. Ancestral house at Stoke Moran. The money which my mother had left was enough for all our wants, and there seemed to be no obstacle to our happiness. But a terrible change came over our stepfather about this time. Instead of making friends and exchanging visits with our neighbors, who had at first been, what was this? Together? Is it a word? See? Overjoyed. Where am I? وصلت. Overjoyed to see a Roylott of Stoke Moran back in the old family seat. He shut himself up in his house and seldom came out save to indulge in ferocious, I suppose. Let's see. Ferocious quarrels. I'm struggling to read today. Quarrels with whoever might cross his path. Violence of temper approaching to mania. Mania or mania? Is this word? Mania. It's like maniac. Mania has been hereditary. Another word that I don't know. Hereditary and the men of the family, and in my stepfather's case it had, I believe, been intensified by his long residence in the tropics. A series of disgraceful brawls. Is it brawls? Let's see. Brawls took place, two of which ended in the police court, until at last he became the terror of the village, and the folks would fly at his approach. For his a man of immense. I don't think I'm gonna complete this. Immense strength and absolutely uncontrollable in his anger. Let's see. 20 دقيقة. Last week he hurled the local blacksmith over a parapet into a stream, and it was only by paying over all the money which I could gather together that I was able to afford another public exposure. He had no friends at all save the wandering gypsies. Yeah, I think gypsies or gypsies, and he would give these vagabonds leave to encamp upon the few acres of, what was this? ليش يقسمون الأرض؟ bramble covered land which represent the family estate, and would accept in return the hospitality of their tents, wandering away with them, sometimes for weeks on end. He has a passion also for Indian what? Let's see. Goodness, why I can't know. No. Animals. Where am I? I don't know, Indian animals, which are sent over to him by, what was this? Correspondent. And he has at this moment a cheetah and baboon, which wander freely over his grounds and are feared by the villagers almost as much as their master. خربت القصة. You can imagine from what I say that my poor sister Julia and I had no great pleasure in our lives. No servant would stay with us, and for a long time we did all the work of the house. She was but 30 at the time of her death, and yet her hair had already begun to whiten, even as mine has. Your sister is dead, then? She died just 2 years ago, and it is of her death that I wish to speak to you. You can understand that, living the life which I have described, we were little likely to see anyone of our own age and position. We had, however, an aunt, my mother's maiden sister, Miss Honoria. Is it Honoria? Honoria Westphale, who lives near Harrow. It's Harrow, surprisingly. And we were occasionally allowed to pay short visits at this lady's house. Julia went there at Christmas 2 years ago and met there a half-pay major of Marines, I suppose. Marines, to whom she became engaged. My stepfather learned of the engagement when my sister returned and offered no objection to the marriage, but within a fortnight of the day which had been fixed for the wedding, the terrible event occurred which has deprived me of my only companion. Sherlock Holmes had been leaning back in his chair with his eyes closed and his head sunk in a cushion, but he half opened. What's this one? What is this? Is it health? Let's now, and glanced across at his visitors. Pray be precise as to details, said he. What was this word? This sentence is not. No, I don't know. This is going on, and I'm struggling to read this old English, and I can't continue this. I'm gonna stop streaming and go and read in easy English or modern English, not an old one. It's driving me crazy, this one here.